guys, Pat here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, but life isn't without its testing. So, as you can see, I got quite a bit of the back of the 450 case crawler sanded down to the metal. And this morning I came in and noticed underneath here there's a small diesel leak. It was not leaking around the flange. However, the rubber that I used for that gasket didn't turn out so well, so I'm going to have to go with a fiber gasket on that, or some sort of a diesel tolerant gasket material. I can see diesel dripping out through this hole right here. This is not actually the tank. This is underneath the tank. Up underneath this 3/8 inch plate, basically, this piece right here is the gas tank, or the diesel tank. What I have going on right now is I'm taking muriatic acid and cleaning it out. After I degreased it, I used some super clean and got all the diesel out, all the grease, oil, diesel oil out of the tank, and did several washings with that super clean. And then I took muriatic acid, and I've done several different treatments to clean the tank out. What that does is it eats away any remaining rust that might be embedded in the metal, and it also etches and cleans the tank as well. You know, cleans the tank of any surface rust that might be in there. Muriatic acid, I think phosphoric acid works just as good for cleaning out that tank. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some POR 15 tank treatment in there, and basically that'll coat the bottom of the tank. But you can see how clean the bottom of that tank is, and that's that muriatic acid doing its thing. Right there at the edge of the flashlight, you can see a little U-shaped crack right there. Right there at that little U-shaped crack is where it is leaking, so I need to seal that up. Well, POR makes a tank repair kit. They have a 3-treatment system. They have a cleaner, then they have an etching agent, and then they have the POR treatment. It's just basically kind of a paint. It's kind of a silvery looking stuff. Well, now that we got it rinsed out, we need to dry it. So I've just got done putting OSPO on the inside of the tank, and so any flash rust that occurred is going to be actually neutralized. The key ingredient in OSPO is phosphoric acid. By putting a coat of that on there, that will take care of any flash rust, and that is going to seep into those pits. So what happens is it changes that rust to iron oxide to iron phosphate, and basically neutralizes it. So anyway, I went ahead and reached up in the hole on the bottom where that flange is and coated this side of the tank on the bottom. And so I'll go to the other side and do the same thing and let that dry overnight. I think you're supposed to give it maybe 24 hours. Just make sure it's dry, and then it'll be ready for that pour 15. So this is, I just got this metal prep from pour 15, a POR 15, and their main ingredients are phosphoric acid and zinc phosphate. Because basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to etch the metal and remove the rust and neutralize the rust. Phospho does the same thing. So this particular process worked on the tank, the 250 gallon diesel tank. So I am going to assume it's going to work okay with this application as well. So I'm going to go ahead and finish painting that Phosphor on the other side, let it dry overnight, and then we'll figure out how to treat the inside of that tank so we can hopefully get it to stop leaking. So we let the tank dry a couple days after applying a coat of Phosphor. Now the Phosphor had just a little bit of a light dust in there where it was working over those pitted areas, and the pitted areas had some black residue. So I took a fine wire brush and brushed the inside of that, took a scraper and scraped it a little bit, and blew it out with the air gun. So what I have to do before I apply the pour 15 is I have to figure out a way to control the pour around this outlet and also control the pour around this rim, because you want to pour that stuff in from the container so it can actually work its way, it can actually drift across that surface and get clear to the other side of the tank. There's a seam right there. Here's a 6-inch hole, and here's the other edge of the tank. So I have to build some sort of a rim around this so the solution, or the pour 15, doesn't just pour out of this and not get to the other side of the tank, because I want to coat the whole bottom. And once it sets in there for a good while, then I will remove this, and I also have to make a stem or something like that that protrudes up through the center of this so this doesn't get plugged up, because that will defeat the whole purpose of lining the tank if you can't get fuel out of it, right? So anyways, if push comes to shove, if it does get plugged, I can just remove this and, you know, drill an opening through there or cut it out with a knife or something. No big deal. But to try to prevent myself from having to do that, I have a little bit of sheathing from some welding cable, maybe jumper cables or something, and it's soft and rubbery. So that kind of fits pretty snug inside of the outlet of the tank. So I'll reach up in here and place that in the inlet. Okay, I have a flashlight inside the tank, and you can see how that protrudes up out of the inlet just a little bit. But another safeguard precaution is I have this piece of 1/2-inch electrical conduit. And what I plan on doing with this is applying some grease on the outside all the way around the perimeter where this makes contact or makes potential contact with that pour 15, and then that pour 15 won't adhere to this because of the layer of grease that's around this. So this, I've already tested it, does fit just inside that hole. In conjunction with that rubber sheathing, hopefully we won't have an issue. So when that stuff dries, you can just pull this up out of the outlet hole and not worry about this getting stuck in the hole with the pour 15. So I have to do something similar to the outside, to the rim on the inside of this. So what I've come up with, or I had a piece of laminate. This is countertop laminate. I've used it for a paint shield and all kinds of different things. And I just cut a 2-inch strip off of this. So the bright light that you see is where the fuel goes in. That's the fuel inlet on the opposite side of the tank on the top side. So what I plan on doing with this is coating this with grease. I thought about just taking some Gorilla Tape and putting the adhesive side on the inside of this, but I just didn't know if it was stiff enough to, and I still might do that, if it was stiff enough to actually control the pour coming out of that. And I didn't know also if putting tape on there, if that would actually adhere to the pour 15 or the tank liner. So I made this. If I coat this with grease, I put this in here, that fits nice and tight in there. These, the very edge doesn't overlap, so I don't think that any of that pour 15 can actually get past it. If it does, it's no big deal, because that's just going to be a seeping action of it. What I'm just trying to do is I'm just trying to control the flow so it gets to all of the bottom of the tank. So the last little trick I wanted to share with you is I built this little funnel, and this is out of a piece of 1-inch PVC pipe and a little 1-inch Fernco, and that stretches over top of a standard jug, like probably use a bleach jug or anything like that. They all have fairly close to the same openings. Obviously I cut it in two, and then I'll recess this inside the tank and then pour the pour 15 obviously on top of this. So that will keep any splashing of that pour 15 from getting all over the inside of the tank. It'll run down this PVC pipe and then gently pour into the bottom of the tank. That little rubber deal, it's going to actually fit just inside this tubing. And then I put a layer of grease on the inside of the outlet of the fuel tank. I just need a layer of grease all along this. It's going to be a little bit messy, so I have to be careful not to get this on the bottom of the tank where I want that POR 15 to adhere to. And we'll put the pipe in first. Again, I've already pre-fitted the pipe. That coupled with the grease around the end of it, the thick grease, hopefully the liner will not adhere to it. Same thing with this. It was a pretty tight fit to start with. So we'll overlap this, put it in that hole, and hope for the best. Okay, so even if that doesn't make a tight fit, hopefully it's going to give the material just enough time to flow to the other side of the tank and everything kind of equalize out. If it drips from that, I'm okay with that. That's fine. So what I have is this little dam here installed, and if I have any drippings, if my plan kind of fails or it works poorly, I have a garbage sack here in a crate, and it's going to catch any drippings coming out of that 6-inch hole. Okay, here goes nothing. Hopefully it won't make a mess. I'll let that drain for a little while. It takes quite a while for this stuff to set up. So under normal conditions, whatever they are, they want you to just go ahead and let this set for a couple days. So not in a big hurry. The other thing I wanted to also mention is that typically this is for like small tanks and stuff like that you can pick up and you can kind of roll around, or even large car tanks that you can pick up and kind of roll around. You have it outside the car. You can roll it from side to side. You let it set for you know, half hour or whatever, and then you roll it to another side, let it set for a half hour, and roll it again on another side to kind of permeate all of the tank itself. Obviously, this machine, the best I could do is level it. So I leveled it front ways and sideways to get the tank level. So hopefully that stuff drifts over to both sides of the tank evenly. And after a certain period of time, what I'll do is I will let the rest of that material drain out. I'll remove that laminate that I put in that 6-inch hole and let the rest of it just drain out. You know, put some rubber gloves on, and the rest of it could just seep out into the crate down below. Okay, you guys have the rough idea what's going on here. Hopefully this turns out the way I hope. There's a little standpipe I put in there to cover up the hole for the outlet to go into the sediment bowl. And there's just the edge of the ridge for the piece of laminate I put in there. You can see it dripping out the side. I think it's covered everything. Okay, it's been about 3 days since we applied the sealer on the bottom of the tank for the Case 450. Rubber gasket that I built did not work. So the diesel had an adverse reaction to that rubber. So now we're gonna put in what we thought about doing the first time, and that's just a fiber gasket. We'll go ahead and get this traced out again. Again, I'm cutting the gasket just a little bit wider in here. So hopefully what'll happen is if this sloshes around and if there's any material or any sediment that gets trapped in this low part of this blind flange, then it hopefully will stay in there. If it sloshes around, hopefully it won't splash back out. So that's the idea of making the flange just a little bit wider than this 1-inch edge here. Okay, we're back underneath the machine. The tank has had plenty of time to cure. So what we have to do is put the flange back on the bottom of this. We need to reinstall the sediment bowl for the outlet of the tank and get this thing filled back up with fuel and see if it leaks. So what I've done is I actually just purchased a whole new sediment bowl. So here obviously is the inlet from the tank, and then the outlet goes towards the engine. But the only thing that I'm going to use out of this is a screen out of here. The old screen from the old sediment bowl was no good. Everything else is good. I'm going to go ahead and just steal the screen out of here. I looked around, you know, the price it would have cost me to just buy this and have it sent. It was just worth it just to go ahead and buy a whole new one. That way, if I ever run into something and break this or break any part of this, then I can go. I'll have extra parts left over. So, with that being said, I'll keep all of the new parts together and reuse the old gasket. These gaskets are meant to be reused. That sediment bowl is meant to come off of there and clean out. So we have this clean. We'll reinsert the screen. Now we'll stick the magnet in over top of where the outlet is. And we have our new gasket. We cleaned up the flange. We cleaned up all the drippings off of the sealer, off of the flange face. Now we're ready for fuel. This is not the right size battery for the machine, but that's what came with it, so that's what we'll use. Eventually we'll possibly get a larger capacity battery for in here. And no matter how careful I was, I still managed to splash a little diesel on my cleanup for prepping to paint this. So I'm going to have to go ahead and degrease the whole thing again. I won't do that until I finish sanding and prepping the rest of the metal. Okay, let's see if this will start. There's really no place to sit in here. I've got everything taken off. I got the seat off, the cushion off, the floor out. So, but I want to see if it'll start, and then monitor the, I want to go ahead and monitor the tank for leaks. One thing I forgot to do was turn on the valve to the outlet of the sediment bowl. Now, usually when I open the valve, I try to not really crank it hard open, but I go just to full, and then I turn it in just a tiny bit, just to keep pressure off the back side of the valve and the valve seat. Now it should run now. Well, so far so good. Well, that's not too bad after about, I'd say about a month not running. Started right up. Anyway, seems to be working fine. It helps when you turn the diesel on. Hope this helps somebody out. If you guys have a leaky tank and an old machine like this, they're not beyond hope. This particular tank, it would have took a lot of effort to get it out of there, because the tank is actually welded to all of this stuff in here, so it would have been quite a mess to try to deal with. But the actual tank itself was in really good shape. A few pinholes in the bottom. That pour 15 actually worked pretty good. It just sealed everything on the bottom. We'll monitor that for a couple days and see how it works out. Hope this helps you guys out in some way. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.